Hello, I'm Omid Jalili. I'm not really. I'm Ricky Gervais. I'm not. I'm Hardeep Singh Kohli. And welcome to Tour of Duty. Gentlemen, for you are gentlemen. I have a strange thing where I work in the radio and people are always surprised to meet me. But I don't have the years of experience and that kind of the deep and profound link with the sport of cricket that you do. It must be lovely you've met your audience through the years, but particularly doing in Edinburgh as you've just done, it must be lovely for them to be able to put a face to you and you to be able to put a serial number and a crime report reference to them.
Well, it always surprises me, you know. I mean, in Edinburgh, when we used to do the flyers before each show, I was amazed at the number of people, I mean, who lived in North Scotland, and who listened to TMS, and would recognise my voice. I really was absolutely amazed. And they were wonderful. We had the most fantastic time up there. It was terrific to meet them, and really, I mean, they became friends in about 5 seconds. And it was extraordinary. I think that was the one thing I found about the Edinburgh Festival, was the friendliness.
It is. Scotland's a very friendly country, and we've witnessed that after the games. There is a joy about radio, an intimacy about radio that seems to transmit to your show more than anything else. It is this notion that, you know, in a time of crisis, you turn to the radio rather than the television, and there is that real sense of kind of intimacy and camaraderie in what you do.
When I was given the job of being a cricket producer of Test Match Special in 1973, my then boss said, it's company. And I think I've always felt like that. The radio is company. You know, when you're alone in your kitchen, you switch the radio on to, you know, hear voices.
Oh, well, I'm alone
and
generally.
that's it. And
my life.
Oh dear. Well, Test Match Special is the greatest company of all, because it goes on for 7 hours in the day, and there they are, and you're part of the family there. And the other thing is that we spend, because cricket is such a long game, and cricket tours are long and all the rest of it, all emanating from it being such a long game, we spend a tremendous amount of time together. So the whole team becomes family, really, and we get to know each other awfully well.
I can think of no other sport, Henry, that combines and unites across class, across country, across race, across creed. There is something about cricket that is universal.
I think there's the timelessness of cricket, as Bacchus was mentioning, but I think also there's the legacy of Brian Johnston, which is responsible for much of that, what you say today. John has really, when he came to us permanently in 1970, brought an increase in humour. I don't say we were po-faced before, but it was a bit straight-laced. It was much more approachable. It became more conversational. It became lighter. It became more amusing. And I think John, as preemptively, was able to do this. Everyone listening to him felt he was talking to them personally. And I think it's something in a way that's rubbed off, or people have been found who have the same attribute. And I think there is something so innately friendly. And I think also the humour is desperately important. I think we live in a world where we don't laugh enough. And when we do have a jolly good laugh, I think we all feel better.
Yes.
And I think that's what we do, not only on Test Match Special, but also very much in the show that Bacchus and I are doing. I mean, it's a show of laughter, not cricket. It's of comedy rather than seriousness, you know. And I think the other thing too about TMS, and therefore about our show, this is the side of Test Match Special we try and reflect. One of the reasons for Test Match Special's fame, surprisingly, paradoxically almost, is its non-cricketing content. And we very much emphasise this. And what we really love is when people come out afterwards, when we're selling a little bit of merchandise, and ladies come up to us and say, you know, I was dragged in unwillingly by my husband, knowing nothing about cricket, and I loved every moment, and I didn't have to know anything about cricket.
There's often cake-based conversation.
Cake, well,
cake comes into it, certainly.
Cake is never out of it. For those unfamiliar with your radio work, or indeed your live work, how does the relationship with what you do on the radio, Test Match Special, inform the show people can see on tour?
I think it's the amount of time we spend together probably that makes the difference, you know, because Test Match Special is a family, and it that produces the stories, all the strange things. I mean, most of what we're talking about on the show is the background strange things, strange people, and then the odd things that happen, and mostly the cock-ups that happen. And let's face it, that's what the funny part is. Things that we were desperate about at the time, but 20 years later they seem quite funny.
Yes, I think it is. I mean, I think we bring it alive. Characters like John Arlott, like Brian Johnston, like Christopher Martin Jenkins. We talk about them and in a humorous way, and I think that way we give people an idea of what they were like. And I think we do dwell very much on the other side of Test Match Special, which is the side away from the cricket and all the mad things that go on. A lot of mad things do go on, and it's great fun. And I think it rather emphasises the point that I think is so terribly important about Test Match Special, which is laughter. And I think our show is laughter. And if people can get from that cricket and Test Match Special is laughter, tremendous.
We even tell stories about Henry Blofeld.
Perish the thought.
God forbid, I agree with you entirely.
It does strike me, in the kind of the hurly-burly of broadcasting, particularly when you're in front of mic or in front of camera, there isn't necessarily a great generosity afforded to one's colleagues. It's a competitive business, and I've always been struck by how generous you've been to Jonas, and how you always mention him, and that debt of gratitude is always paid, and it feels like he's still very much part of what cricket is about, even though he's been absent for many years.
Yes. Well, I mean, as Blair said, it affects the generation of commentators now, even those who never knew him, and probably don't know that they're affected by what Brian did, but they are. I mean, it is the whole tenor of the commentary box was set by him. And of course, his arriving in the commentary box, when he did in 1970 permanently, meant that a wider public, because he brought, because he'd been in television, a lot of people came with him, as it were, to the radio commentary, and they discovered how good John Arlott was, because in him we had a genius. Now his legacy, if you like, probably hasn't gone on as much because he was a man of his time, and I think anyone who tried to commentate as poetically as Arlott did would be a bit self-conscious now if he tried to do it, which is a pity actually. It would be nice to hear it done like that again, but I can imagine that no one would dare, probably.
But also, it's really nice because your show, which you're touring at present, is much more, I think, listen, I do stand-up comedy, and so I'm not about to bite the hand that feeds. I think there's some great stand-up comedy out there, but we have for a while seemed to have lost that peculiarly English and widely British tradition of the raconteur, the storyteller, where it's based in truth rather than, there are fewer laughs in an hour, but they're deeper laughs and better earned laughs, and that's sort of very much what you gents do. It's actually relating stories, and it's an engagement with the audience that is more profound, I think, than just telling some gags.
I think things, perhaps, when they are based on truth, maybe you're right. You put it very well. I hadn't thought of it quite that way before. I think there is a great truth in this. It's easy to make a glib funny, but when you're making a glib funny which is actually backed by a story which is actually true, it does give it greater depth, doesn't it?
It does, I feel so.
The story can take 5 minutes, but there are little chuckles along the way before we get to the denouement, the end of it.
And I can't let you gents go without asking you to take the temperature of contemporary international cricket. Since I've been a child, I've been hearing, I'm a great cricket fan. We had a cricket bat, an Indian cricket bat. On the back of it there was a sticker where the brand sticker wasn't in every position in the field, and so I learned at the age of 9 every fielding position.
Will you lend it to me?
Take it to the commentary book.
I've been hearing since I was 8-9 years old that the 5-day game, the long form, is on the way out. When 2020 came in, that was the final death knell for Test cricket. And then when one watches England play cricket, one feels that must be the final death knell for cricket. Are we still, in this increasingly fast-moving world, going to find not just the broadcast space, but the mental space to enjoy the beautiful balance of luck, chance, weather, and cake that is Test match cricket?
I think Test match cricket will go on. I think there may be less of it. I think some of the smaller countries, the Zimbabwe's, the Bangladeshis, may not play as much. I'm a little bit worried about the thing that's happening at the ICC now, whereby India, England and Australia are trying to take over the whole of international cricket and in a sense disenfranchise us, the other 7 test playing countries. I think this is dangerous. With all these things, it happened with Packer. The rich get richer and the poor ultimately get poorer, and this is what of course they don't say at the start. But I am worried about that. I'm worried about another thing. I think 2020 is wonderful, but I think it's got to be kept in its place, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. If it flooded cricket and you cast ahead 20 years and you thought of a new generation of cricketers learning the game only on the basis of 2020, standards will slip appallingly. And then I wonder if it'd be worth watching. I think you've got to have a 2-day competition like the kind of 2 innings competition like the kind of championship to produce Test cricketers. But I think in this country, in England particularly, Test cricket I think is jolly nearly as popular as it ever was. And I think overseas, when you get the big countries playing, Australia, South Africa, India, and again in India, television will never go away. And I don't think Test cricket will go away because the television companies find that 5-day Test cricket is cheap wallpaper in a sense, and everywhere in the world there is an expatriate Indian population, subcontinental population, who will want to watch. The sponsorship is enormous. India at the moment, they say, produce 80% of the game's income around the world, which is an amazing figure. And this is the strength of cricket there, and I think Test cricket is needed by the people who produce that money.
Well, it's an unfolding drama that goes on for several days, and you can actually have, I think, more excitement because of the fluctuating fortunes of a Test match over 5 days. You know, the close of play, all speculation about what's going to happen the next day and how the day has changed and this sort of thing. And actually that's where radio comes in, and broadcasting generally, but in a way almost particularly radio, because you can take the radio with you as you go around, so you can stay in touch with the Test match all day in your car or wherever you go, a little pocket radio in the shop, or whatever you're doing. And you keep in touch. Gosh, this is happening, that's happening, and then things change. And I think Test cricket is absolutely rock solid safe. But you know, we have to be vigilant all the time.
Well, I very much look forward to years of batsmen holding bowlers' willies, which doesn't work when you pluralise it and change the tense. Gentlemen, a pleasure to meet you, an honour to meet you actually, Blurs Udaffa.
My dear old thing, it's what a fun it's been.
Anyway,
Thank you
very much
me.
indeed.
Thanks, Hardeep.